The crystalline spires of Zephyria Prime cracked under the relentless bombardment. Their melodic resonance reduced to discordant screams as they shattered into a million fragments. Commander Veltar pressed his four-fingered hand against the transparent aluminum of the command center's observation deck, watching his homeworld die. "Sir," his aide whispered, her voice trembling through the translator implant. "The last defensive grid has fallen. The Devourers have broken through Sector 7. Veltar's compound eyes tracked the movement of the massive bioships as they descended through Zephyria's azure atmosphere like metallic tumors. Each vessel was the size of a city, their surfaces writhing with organic conduits that pulsed with stolen energy from a dozen conquered worlds. The Devourer Collective had swept across this arm of the galaxy for 3 standard cycles, consuming everything in their path: technology, resources, and the life force of entire species. The Zephyrian military had held out longer than most. Their crystalline technology and harmonic warfare had given the Devourers pause, but only briefly. Now, as the enemy's adaptation protocols completed their work, Zephyria's defenses crumbled like sand castles before a tsunami. "How long before they reach the civilian evacuation centers?" Veltar asked, though he already knew the answer would bring no comfort. 18 minutes, sir. The transport ships are still loading refugees from the northern archipelagos." 18 minutes. Not nearly enough time to save even a fraction of his people. Veltar had seen the aftermath of Devourer conquests, barren husks of worlds, stripped of all organic matter, their atmospheres poisoned and their surfaces scarred beyond recognition. In 3 billion years of evolution, nothing had prepared the peaceful Zephyrians for an enemy that viewed entire civilizations as nothing more than biomass to be harvested. A new tremor shook the command center as another spire collapsed in the distance. Emergency klaxons wailed their futile warnings while staff officers coordinated what remained of their scattered forces. The situation reports painted an increasingly hopeless picture. 70% casualties among the fleet, communication, networks compromised, and the planetary defense cannon offline after a targeted strike from Devourer biomissiles. "Sir!" The communications officer's excitement was palpable even through the translation matrix. "I'm receiving a transmission on the emergency frequency. It's not one of ours." Veltar turned from the window, his carapace bristling with desperate hope. "Put it through." The holographic display flickered to life, revealing a bipedal figure in angular armor that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The being's face was hidden behind a reflective visor, but when it spoke, the voice carried an authority that made Veltar's thoracic plate straighten instinctively. "Zephyrian Command, this is Colonel Sarah Chen of the Terran Expeditionary Force. We've been tracking the Devourer Collective across 7 systems. Hold your positions. Help is on the way." Veltar's aide gasped. "Terrans? But they're just a myth, a species that supposedly evolved on some backward world in the Outer Rim." The colonel seemed to hear her despite the distance. "Ma'am, we're about as mythical as a plasma rifle to the face. Chen out." The transmission cut, leaving the command center in stunned silence. Veltar had heard whispers of humans in the deepest corners of the galactic network, stories of a young species that had emerged from a violent world called Earth, creatures of impossible tenacity who refused to yield even when facing extinction. Most civilized species dismiss such tales as propaganda or wishful thinking. "Movement detected in high orbit." The sensor operator's voice cracked with disbelief. "Ships are dropping out of hyperspace. Dozens of them." The main display shifted to show the tactical situation above Zephyria. Where empty space had existed moments before, a fleet of angular vessels now hung in formation. Unlike the flowing, organic designs favored by most species, these ships were brutal in their functionality. All sharp edges and weapon emplacements, built for one purpose: war. The largest vessel, easily twice the size of Zephyria's former flagship, began broadcasting on all frequencies. "Devourer Collective, this is Admiral Marcus Kane aboard the TNV Indomitable. You are ordered to withdraw from this system immediately or face the consequences." The response came as a wave of bioships turning toward this new threat, their predatory excitement transmitted through electromagnetic pulses that made the command center's instruments squeal in protest. To the Devourers, these newcomers represented simply more biomass to consume. They couldn't have been more wrong. The human fleet moved with a precision that took Veltar's breath away. Their ships accelerated at G-forces that should have liquefied any organic crew, while their weapons began a symphony of destruction that redefined the very concept of warfare. Kinetic projectiles traveling at relativistic speeds punched through Devourer bioarmor like it was tissue paper. Energy beams carved through their adaptive shielding before the enemy's biological systems could compensate. But it was when the human ground forces deployed that Veltar truly understood why the galaxy whispered about Earth's children in equal parts fear and awe. Drop pods screamed through Zephyria's atmosphere, their occupants somehow surviving impacts that should have reduced them to paste. From each pod emerged figures in powered armor that moved with inhuman speed and coordination. These weren't just soldiers, they were apex predators given form and purpose. The first group of Devourers that encountered human infantry learned too late that their intimidation tactics meant nothing to beings who had evolved on a death world. Where other species fled from the collective's horrifying bioforms, humans charged directly into combat, their weapons roaring defiance in frequencies that made the crystalline formations of Zephyria sing in harmony. "This is impossible," whispered the aide. "How can they be so effective against enemies that have conquered half the galaxy?" Veltar watched as a single human soldier, the armor's designation read Jenkins, faced down a Devourer bioform 3 times his size. The creature's acidic appendages should have dissolved him instantly, but the human simply adjusted his stance, said something that the translator rendered as, "Come on then, ugly," and opened fire with a weapon that turned the monstrosity into vapor. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the Devourer fleet was little more than debris scattered across Zephyria's orbital space, and their ground forces had been systematically hunted down and eliminated by human soldiers who treated impossible odds as a mild inconvenience. Colonel Chen materialized in the command center via transport beam, her helmet retracted to reveal a scarred face and eyes that held the weight of 100 battles. "Commander Veltar, I presume?" "Yes, but how? How did you defeat them so easily? The Devourers have conquered dozens of species." Chen's smile was predatory. "Commander, your people are peaceful. That's admirable, but it also means you fight to survive. We humans, we don't fight to survive, we fight to win. There's a difference." She gestured toward the window, where human ships were already beginning rescue operations. "Besides, we've been looking for the collective for a while now. They made a mistake when they hit the Centauri colonies. That's when they stopped being just another hostile species and became a problem that needed solving." As Veltar watched, human medics tend to Zephyrian wounded with the same fierce dedication they'd shown in combat. He began to understand. These beings didn't just fight. They fought for others, turning their capacity for violence into a shield for the innocent. The galaxy would never be the same. The Devourers had finally met their match, and hope had taken the form of soldiers. From a small blue world that refused to let evil triumph unopposed, humanity had arrived and everything had indeed changed.